I am.
Alright, this is the Gauntlet 7 Sorrows Xbox 360 one-player indie percent race between Furby XP and Boyle 003.
All right. I want to thank you all for watching this. We're going to just get it going here because there's a lot to talk about. We're going to start it off in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So we're going to be loading into the first level here. This is City Under Siege. This is going to sort of set the stage for a lot of what we're going to see during this run as far as the base game mechanics go. So this game had sort of a rush development cycle that we'll talk about in a little bit. And because of that, there's only a few different objectives that tend to be very common in these levels. One of those is pushing stuff, and the other one is picking up keys. And we actually do that right at the beginning. So it's the first thing we're asked to do by the game. And we're going to see ourselves doing that quite a bit. Gauntlet 7 Sorrows was an interesting development and entry in the Gauntlet series. Boy, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
So it was first introduced in February 2004. Conceptually, it was meant to be more of a mature Gauntlet game. During that time, Midway was heavily focused on the success of Mortal Kombat, and so they really wanted all of their games to be more mature. So the story of this game is the 4 heroes are immortals, and the Emperor was told by his 6 quote-unquote trusted advisors to steal their immortality by crucifying them to a tree at the bottom of the world. So that right there kind of shows the tone that they were trying to go in the very beginning of development.
Yeah, so it was a heavily sort of anticipated game by the Gauntlet community, but once it had come out, it was a bit of a disappointment because the development got cut short quite a bit by Midway. And so we see sort of a vestige of what this was meant to be. And because of this, we actually have some fun stuff that we get to do throughout the run, some abuses to the systems and mechanics in this game that were probably overlooked, may have been caught had they had more time to work on the game. One of those things is there's a move called Continental Assault. It seems clear that their intent was for this to be a long-ranged spread shot move that allows the elf to take out a couple enemies. But because it shoots 3 arrows at a time, it ends up doing a lot of damage up close if you can get all the arrows to hit the same thing. So early in the run, we're going to be collecting gold so that we can buy Continental Assault. There's sort of 2 classes of moves in this game. There's these little combos you can unlock, and then there's these special moves that cost mana. And the special moves cost a little bit more gold as well. Those are 500 gold, so we're working towards that 500 gold. But right here we get to meet our first friend, Death. Death is a reoccurring character in the Gauntlet series, and he's sprinkled throughout 7 Sorrows levels. And there's this silly little thing where the announcer is trying to warn us and tell us, hey, Death is there, so he says, Death has appeared. But it sounds like he's saying Death has a beard, and so we tend to joke around about Death's beard a lot. And we're actually going to see Death a bunch of times throughout this run, so it's just fun to join in with the announcer talking about Death's beard. But
If we were on the stage, at least speaking for myself, I would encourage everybody in the audience, once Death appears, to say Death has a beard.
Yeah, it's one of the prevalent jokes amongst us right now. So we just wrapped up level 2. That's Dungeon Passage, another pretty straightforward level. We are mostly trying to make sure that we pick up the gold that we need. And now we're going to be working our way into level 3, Plague Town. So this is the first boss level, and it also is going to showcase the first major glitch that we were able to discover for this game. The boss in this level is the Scarecrow. He's not too bad. He can be a little annoying to fight, but Nonetheless, any boss takes time, and it's time that we don't want to have to spend fighting something. So we're going to try to completely circumvent this fight by using a trick that we call the Scarecrow Clip. Before we get there, we first need to go through this section where we're going to have to clear out a certain amount of enemies. So we're going to stand here. We have a little bit of time to take a breath, take a break, read chat, read donations, do whatever, while we hit our kill quota. And then we can go into the Scarecrow fight. It's a glitch that I found this quite a while ago, a good few months ago, late 2025. I had decided to pick the game back up, and I hadn't really even begun learning the full run. I was just practicing the first couple of levels, and I realized in my practice at one point that sometimes you can get Scarecrow to fall through the floor. I wondered if it was intended, but it definitely doesn't seem like it is. And so after a lot of messing around, we were able to find a way to make that consistent. So I'm going to be entering in this room, his boss room real quick here, and we're going to do some setup. So as I entered that, what we're going to do is we're going to hold a specific angle as we walk in. And then once the cutscene starts, I'm actually holding an angle on my controller. If I hold the right angles, I'll be positioned in the correct spot. Then I'm going to press two buttons, A and then X. One clears the prompt, one attacks. And if we do this right, Scarecrow's going to get hit by the fire in a very specific way that melts him through the floor. So go for it there. And awesome. We ended up getting the Scarecrow clip. So that is how we're able to skip the Scarecrow. The button presses we do have to be about 175 to 180 BPM. So as long as you get that timing right and your position is right, you can usually get that Scarecrow clip, which saves quite a bit of time.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
It saves about 30 seconds to a minute, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, and it's it also removes some of that RNG because, like you said, 30 seconds to a minute. That's largely dependent on how nice Scarecrow is. Sometimes he gives you real bad moves that waste a lot of time. So doing this, we don't have to worry about any of that. This level ends up taking just about the same amount of time every time now. And now that we have made our way towards the end of this level, we've actually managed to pick up just enough gold to buy Continental Assault. So once we finish this off and get the portal to spawn, we can buy Continental Assault. And right when we start this next level, you'll get to see why Continental Assault is so good. It does an incredibly high amount of damage to anything we stand close enough to. And throughout this game, we're going to have to destroy a lot of generators, which spawn enemies. And obviously, we'll have to fight a bunch of bosses. And so Continental is going to be a really, really good tool for us to use against that. It's also a little silly because we used to call this move Continental Drift because it almost, the two phrases overlap enough. So sometimes we still do call it Continental Drift. But right there, you can see just how fast that can destroy a generator. So that's one of the big time saves for this route, is getting this. It's something that was discovered by a runner back in 2016, and it was one of the few real optimizations that was made in the speedrun for this game way back then, because a lot of what we do was discovered just in the past few months. But a runner named Pote was one of the first players to actually give a good shot at trying to optimize this run, and he's the one that discovered that Elf was as good as he is. So about 9-10 years ago, he discovered some of these strats.
Oh yeah, the history of speedrunning Gauntlet 7 Sorrows dates back over 9 years ago with Pote. He had done a run that was a 1 hour, 1 minute run. And at the time, he was convinced that a sub 1 hour run was possible, but for whatever reason, he chose to step away from the game. It wasn't until about 3 years later that I tried to play this game. I did it as a 12-hour marathon, just as a challenge. Unfortunately, I think I ended up getting like a 102 or a 103, and decided to put the game down, as unfortunately this is not my favorite Gauntlet in the roster.
Yeah, this was definitely not the most popular Gauntlet game, and even a lot of the runners that have given it a shot have realized that there's some pretty frustrating points in this game, and it's driven a lot of people away in the past. But here we're seeing...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say real quick, we're seeing Boyo do the cutscene skip. This is one of 2 cutscene skips we found, so... In Shipbuilder Village, we actually know where the final portal is going to spawn, and we're able to stand there as we destroy that final generator. Normally a cutscene will play, and we have to wait for the cutscene to finish before we can walk over to the portal, but if you're already standing on it, you can instantly leave the level. So that is just one of those really small but nice optimizations we found where there's a couple cutscenes that we can skip. And then also in Sunken Harbor, we just saw another death chest. Death has a beard. Do you want to talk a little bit about the history of this level, Boyo?
Yeah, so Poe used different split names for the levels instead of using the actual level names. And one of those, for this level in particular, is called Money, Money, Money. The reason being is there are a lot of chests, as you can see, and a lot of them hold 50 gold, which is where the first build for getting enough money for Continental Assault. Nowadays, what we're doing now is we're picking up just enough gold to buy a move called Falcon Pact, which is a button combination that we use in tandem with Continental Assault for the next level.
Yeah, Falcon Pact has almost at a time had a little controversy around it, where I had been doing runs and I was buying a combo move called Lunge because I thought it was the fastest way to destroy generators. But it turns out Falcon Pact can destroy them just as fast, but it also can knock enemies... Oh, I forgot to buy it. That's okay. We'll have to get it after this level. Falcon Pact can also knock enemies away, making certain sections a lot safer. So the fact that it has roughly the same DPS while also giving you some extra utility makes it a lot better of a choice. And the runner Blue Screen was actually a big advocate for Falcon Pact early on, where he felt that it was a lot better than Lunge. And at first I had a little pushback. I was like, I don't know, I think Lunge is better. But then we did a little research, we studied up on the moves, and it does turn out that it's a lot better to buy Falcon Pact. So that's how we started using that move over some of the other ones. We've done a lot of move exploration to see what we can and can't use, what does and doesn't help, and it's been interesting because a lot of moves don't seem to really help that much. So finding ones that do is sort of like a little hidden gem that we get to utilize. So now in Ancient Forest, this is kind of a long section. We have a lot of doors that we need to open, and it takes quite a while to do so since we have to take out all these enemies so that we can crank the levers. And so another part in the run where we typically can take a little bit of a mental break. We can read chat, we can read donations, all those things, because it gets a little bit repetitive. We just need to be clearing rooms and opening doors for a little bit. And you're probably seeing, yeah, you're seeing over on Boyo's side of things, you can see that use, that really beneficial use of Falcon Pact, where it's doing lots of damage to generators and also taking out lots of enemies.
Exactly. One of the strategies that I use for this run is to use Falcon Pact first as a means to clear out all of the enemies that are nearby. Furby realized a while ago that Continental Assault actually starts out behind you. And so if there are enemies behind you, or if you're lined up to a door, the arrows won't actually hit the target you're intended to get. So, as you can see, I'm trying to Falcon Pact first to get rid of them, and then Assault.
Yeah, it definitely helps quite a bit. We've also tried sort of like doing a backwards Continental where you just face away from what you want to hit, but that's also inconsistent, where sometimes the arrows work, sometimes they don't, so it's best to just clear the enemies out so that they're not in the way. So as we push our way through this level, this is another boss level where there is a boss at the end, and The way that this sort of lore lines up for this game is that there was this emperor who chained up all of us on this tree. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Boyo, and what happened there?
So the way the history of the game goes is your 4 characters are immortal, and the Emperor got word from his 6 trusted advisors that we were no good, and they needed to steal our immortality. So the 4 heroes were crucified on an ancient tree at the bottom of the planet, thus taking away the immortality. As a result, the 6 advisors turned into monsters, and they decided to start taking over the world. So in his last act before his death, he took us off of the tree and was like, please atone for my 6 sorrows, hence the name 7 Sorrows.
Yeah, and so what's kind of funny for us about this is these bosses we're fighting, these are the those advisors that have been turned into these monsters. And the one we're about to fight, he's called the Twisted Man. And for some reason, when the Twisted Man was sort of morphed, he got turned into a giant tree guy. And so one of our runners, Blue Screen, who is one of the primary innovators for a lot of the strategies that we use, he kept calling this boss Groot. And that led to all of us adapting to calling this boss Groot. And at this point, we kind of forget his name actually is the Twisted Man, and we usually just call him Groot. So we're gonna go fight Groot soon, and hopefully he's nice to us. He can be kind of a jerk because he has a lot of moves that can really stall for time. So we're gonna hope that he gives us some good RNG, and then we're also going to be attempting the second cutscene skip that we've found, where if we finish this boss fight standing in the right spot, we can end the level during a pretty long cutscene, which saves quite a bit of time. So, oof, and I'm getting a rough start already. So hopefully things can turn around a bit. Ooh, tough RNG, but it's not too bad. He's still standing in a good spot. So yeah, these cutscene skips were something we found sort of recently, where on stream I had just been messing around, trying out some strategies and stuff, and I happened to be standing in a specific spot when I ended the fight and realized, oh, I can finish the level during this cutscene, and that's what opened our eyes to the fact that there are cutscene skips in this game. So that was a pretty big discovery more recently. There's been a couple cool strategies we found in just the past couple of days. Oof, I'm gonna have to get one more respawn in, I think. Let's take this wide so we can get over here. And there we go. That's the cutscene skip. By standing by that doorway, I was able to skip that cutscene. And that wraps up Ancient Forest, which is going to put us into the next level, which is very difficult. It's called Standing Stones. This level has been a very difficult thorn in our side for the past couple of months. But luckily, we have been able to find a couple of strategies to help out a bit. So this level, Standing Stones, probably should have been called Pushing Stones, because that's all we're really going to be doing, is pushing a bunch of stones. And as we're pushing these stones, we're going to have some opposition. We're going to have some enemies that are trying to stop us, and it wastes a ton of time. We used to take out all the enemies, but taking them out takes a little bit too much time, so it's better to just brute force things and push the stones. But on the ending section, which is the hardest section of this level, we were able to find a pretty cool trick that Blue Screen was kind enough to spend some time researching a setup for to make consistent, and it helps make that last section way easier. So we'll be showing that off once we get there. But historically, this is one of the more difficult levels, and it's one that we've all spent a very long amount of time into. There's also a small thing, Boyo found this here. If we walk far enough down on this pathway, we can avoid a bunch of enemy spawns, which makes this a much easier path to cross. This is another small consistency thing that we've been able to find, but yeah, here we are. Time to push some stones, and we're just going to keep swiping enemies away when we can, trying to make our way through here. And luckily, these enemies actually jump backwards sometimes when you attack them, so it gives you a little bit of extra breathing room, but all in all, we need to push as much as we can, and so sometimes just tanking the hits is worth it. As we get through this, it's very interesting to see how different this run is. The 1 hour, 1 minute run that Pote had done 9 years ago was using more or less all of the same tools and resources that we're using here in this run. But we've been able to squeeze a lot of really good optimizations out of things to really cut things down. The record now sitting down all the way at 52 minutes. It's made a huge difference. We actually are now doing this any percent faster than the New Game Plus runs used to be. And a lot of that are these little things like the cutscene skips and the strategies on these more difficult levels that we've found. Blue screen has played a huge role in that, but also just everyone coming together and running this game as much as we have been has been able to pour enough love into this game to get its run looking much, much cleaner.
Just took a death, mainly because the trick coming up does require us to have full mana to do our mana blast, which is the most powerful move that every character can play in this game. So having full mana to do that really does help.
Yeah, so what we're going to do as we approach the second portion, these enemies are kind of silly. They can be aggressive, they can be strong, don't want to take too much credit from them. The one thing they don't seem to have is very good eyesight. So for some reason, so long as we're far enough away from them, they won't know where we are and won't be able to aggro towards us. So rather than guiding them towards an optometrist or just giving them some eyeglass wear, we're going to try and abuse that a little bit to save ourselves some time. So the biggest issue with this level is that we need to push these stones, and getting interrupted loses us a lot of time. So we're going to run up in this corner, and we're going to die. And because we mana blasted before entering the room, almost all of the enemies, or maybe sometimes all of them, will have been taken out, and now all of those enemies up in the corner are stuck. And we can push these stones mostly uncontested. I think I might have a single enemy, or that might have been left over from the previous room, so I think I'm okay. Yes, so...
Same, I have one enemy that's following me around.
Yeah,
They are a super fan.
usually at worst you'll get 1, maybe 2 enemies, which is still a lot easier than this level used to be, so... Because they can't see us for some reason, we're all good to go, so now we just get to push these stones. This used to be such an incredibly difficult section. We're also seeing these purple-robed, like, sorcerer characters. Those are summoners. They're normally supposed to summon these little bone scorpions, but because there's too many enemies spawned in this area, they can't spawn them, so they just throw the skulls that usually spawn them, and just nothing happens. So they end up being pretty useless, which is good for us, because it keeps us safe, so... Now, having pushed all of those stones down, we can run to the end and move on to the next boss, which is the Stone Golem. The Stone Golem's a bit quirky, a bit weird. He's made of rocks, which might surprise many, because his name definitely doesn't tip us off to that. And because of being made of rocks, we can't really damage him directly. So instead, we're going to try to take out the summoners that are controlling him. So, funny enough, these summoners are actually going to be working against themselves because the stone golem that they are controlling is going to help us out a bit. We're going to stand behind these tall pillars that the summoners are standing on, and we're going to get the golem to do attacks and knock into these pillars, which knocks them down. And normally we want to take these summoners out. We want to kill them so that the stone golem can be taken out, but we're going to wait a little bit. We're actually going to gather all of them up first, and we're going to use the pit in the center of this arena and knock them all into it. That way they all die at once. It saves us time since these guys actually do have quite a bit of health. And in order to do this, we're going to corral the enemies together so that we can do it all in one big mana burst, which is that move we used a little earlier to clear a bunch of enemies out. Boyo, do you want to talk a little about the pits and why they exist in this game?
Yeah, so this is yet another thing that they really wanted to have in this game when John Romero and Josh Sawyer were the lead producers. They were hoping to do a lot of things with this game, like inventory systems and item drops that you could pick up and trade with the other players, but most importantly, at least in this instance, is using pits to throw enemies inside them. Unfortunately, that never really became a full thing that they fleshed out when this game got released, but the pits remained. So you'll see later on in this run where pits are available for us to throw enemies in, but we can't really throw them.
Yeah, it would have been a pretty cool mechanic to have, and it's a bit of a bummer that we never got to see it. But we still get to utilize that a little bit by using things like mana bursting to put enemies into the pits when we need to. And that's the biggest use of something like that for us. So that allows us to take out the stone golem pretty quickly, and now we're going to have a pretty long section where we need to destroy lots of generators, pick up a couple keys, things like that. So another brief break in the run where we can take a breather, read chat, pick our nose, drink water, do whatever we need to do while we get through some of the more repetitive sections of pick thing up, open blue wall, destroy generator. Despite this being a pretty repetitive level or a pretty mundane level, it's actually really tough, and it's had an interesting history. So there's lots of enemies. It's easy to die to them. Dying obviously loses a little bit of time, though luckily spawn points are pretty generous in this game. We used to just kind of run through this level as normal and finish it. But recently, we have come to realize that one of the weapon upgrades on this level is very good. So it may have slipped past most people watching, but our sword actually looks different already than it used to. This is a weapon upgrade that we picked up earlier in the run because it was in our path. It was along the way. It was very easy to pick up. But we haven't been picking up any of the other ones, and that's because they're just too far out of the way. They don't really help enough to be worth it. But the one on this level, even though we have to go a little bit out of our way, it actually helps a lot. So this was a new sort of revelation for us. We used to use this, and old runs used to use this upgrade, but we decided it was just too much effort to go pick up, and we started skipping it. But now that we've gotten a lot better at getting value out of our attacks and out of our damage, it's actually worth it again for us to pick the weapon upgrade up. So we're going to take a little teleporter and we're going to go grab that. And not only does this save time in some of the later levels by giving us better damage, but it actually makes this level even a little easier because the extra damage makes things a little quicker and a little safer, which is nice. So I'm going to be taking this teleporter and we're going to be picking up that weapon upgrade. Then we have to go through this final section of this level, which is a pretty tough one. We're going to do everything we can to make sure we avoid the enemies so that we don't take too much, but you can even see already now we're able to destroy these generators much faster than we normally can, so this damage upgrade helps quite a bit. Try not to die too much. These the big threat on this level, it's these fireball throwing sorcerers. They do a lot of damage, so at times we will do what we can to play it safe, just to not die to them, but it is pretty common to take it. Oh, are you gonna make it?
Got it.
Nice. Yeah, it's very common to take a death on this level, so a lot of times we're kind of pushing the envelope on this one. Ooh, am I gonna make it? I think so. I'm also at Street Fighter level. Oh, I didn't make it. All right.
No.
That's okay. Spawn point is very close by. Just a few more seconds to get to the end with that, but there we go. And that's Imperial City. That's a pretty infamous level for the difficulty it has had. But now it gives us one of the better weapon upgrades, which is very helpful. And now we're moving on to Imperial Palace. A pretty straightforward level. Another breather that we can take. Gotta destroy some generators, take out some enemies, pull levers, etc. So we're gonna be doing that now. This game could have been a lot more. It is really cool. I like it personally quite a bit. It definitely could have been a lot more. And it had some unfortunate... it's got some unfortunate history with this development cycle. Boyle, do you want to talk a bit about John Romero and some of the planned things, like the characters that got cut?
Oh, absolutely. You'll have to remind me the names of the two characters.
Oh, yeah,
but,
I can. Yeah.
as mentioned, this was meant to be the mature version of Gauntlet. It was supposed to have darker themes about the heroes and their plight with the world around them. And this was all put together and shown in E3 2005, which was in May, to be more specific. And everybody was very excited about seeing this. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, Midway was kind of in a bit of a financial crisis. A lot of the games that were being developed at that time were falling behind due to software and level creation issues. And management at Midway basically said to all of the teams, hey, there needs to be a game that is produced and shipped out for Christmas of 2005. Somebody's got to get some cuts. Something has to give. And unfortunately, Seven Sorrows got the short end of the stick. And due to that, Josh and John decided to leave Midway in July of 2005, leaving new managers to basically pick up the pieces and kind of Frankenstein a game together to ensure that it got shipped out. It got shipped out in America on December 12th of 2005, and that is what we have today.
Yeah, and as part of this, we unfortunately had two characters cut. One was called the Lancer, and one was called, I think, the Tragedian. And they, from what they were supposed to be, they sounded pretty cool. The Lancer was actually supposed to have a lot of like mobility-based mechanics for him. And that would have been awesome probably for us to have a character that's a little more mobile. But those unfortunately got cut. We do have concept art that we can look at for them, but with the rush for the game to get it out as fast as possible, they didn't end up including that many characters. And so we only have the 4 standard Gauntlet characters that we usually see, which is in this case, it's the Elf, the Wizard, the Valkyrie, and the Warrior. And we usually just see the Elf. In our other categories, we actually do get to make use of all of the different characters, but Elf is definitely the strongest, and so that's who we tend to use for this category here. So, now we're in Throne Room. Throne Room is kind of a double boss. I mean, this first portion's, I guess, more of a mini-boss. But we need to take out these golden statues, and then later on we're going to take out the Grand Magistrate, which is the next major boss, one of the advisors to the Emperor. So this section is a little notorious. It's kind of difficult, and these bosses can soak up some major time sometimes. So a lot of that has to do with the kind of RNG that you get on the Grand Magistrate portion at the end of the level. Sometimes he's nice, and sometimes he's very mean. So we're going to hope that he's nice and gives us... Oh, I'm a little stuck here. Gives us some good attacks, and if he is, then that's awesome. But sometimes he's quite mean. Okay, and then also this room is a very weird room. So we have to crank these levers and close these trapdoors in order to progress forward. But it's really, really hard to do no matter what you try. It's hard to do as one player. And it almost seems like they didn't really consider the fact that people would play this game by themselves. It's not so bad if you're playing co-op and can defend each other. But what we tend to do is use our mana to do a burst right before we start turning the lever. That way we can do it mostly uncontested. And then usually we end up taking a death so that we can get that mana back and do it a second time. It's a very interesting way for them to have set this room up because we can't avoid all of the enemy spawns. But you also see
So many
your boy...
times.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
So many times in that section, I've almost gotten one of the trapdoors to close, and one of the enemies will just hit me just at the right moment to just reset the whole thing. It can be very tilting as a player.
Yeah, it's a very difficult section, and then you have to go right into one of the most RNG heavy bosses right afterwards too. So it's a very difficult portion to maintain a good mentality on sometimes. But here we are. We're going to take on the Grand Magistrate. Boyo has already finished it, I believe. Funny enough, for some reason, when we finish this boss, it spawns death, which is meant to like pressure us to run to the end, I guess, and push the statue. But death moves so slowly that we don't even see him by the time we finished the level. So a little silly for him to even be there. But I'm sure that there were probably some other bigger plans for him that just didn't quite make it in. But that wraps up Throne Room for us once we've pushed that statue. And then we go on to the Imperial Dungeon afterwards, which is another sort of interesting level where we need to kill a certain amount of enemies, just like we did on the 3rd level, in order to progress. So we spend quite a bit of time just hacking and slashing away at people. Hit my splits there. It's also fun. Some things we've been exploring lately is the idea that maybe playing as player 1 isn't always the best. We found some fun stuff on Imperial Dungeon where maybe player 4 is actually a little faster because where he spawns and where teleporters put him are a little bit better. And so that's something we've been exploring a little bit lately is maybe other controller ports are better, but if we use other controller ports, things like the Scarecrow clip, we need new setups for because those also will change. So it's been a very interesting time trying to explore those different ports and seeing if maybe the green or the yellow character port is better. But here we're just going to be mostly focusing on good mana management and taking out these enemies as quickly as we can. And it's another point where we can kind of settle down, read chat, read donations, do things like that. Falcon Pact can be pretty helpful here, but our damage is pretty good thanks to this weapon upgrade, so as long as we keep the attacks going, we usually do pretty good.
Playing through this section of the level, I do prefer using Falcon Pact only because it does remind me of these pits here and being able to use them properly, as at least as how it was intended before the idea of throwing was removed from the game.
Yeah, this is another one of those sections that definitely looks like it was designed around that other combat system that they were going to include that they didn't quite get in. This is also a level where we see a lot of cheese, literal, actual cheese. That is like the health item for this game. And it's had a very interesting history. Boyo, if you want to talk a bit about the cheese.
Oh yeah, so health wasn't meant to be just food items that you can pick up on the ground. It was intended to be orbs where you had to hit like a certain button combination to be able to pick up. What was fascinating is you were timed to pick up these orbs, and if you didn't pick them up in time, they would be absorbed by death, and then death would appear. So it would have been a little more seamless integration of death in the game instead of it just randomly appearing.
Another very interesting mechanic that would have been really cool to see in the final cut for the game, but instead death now just appears in a certain set number of chests. So we actually, it kind of does help us a little bit since we know exactly where death is going to be throughout our run, and any time that we might need him, we know how we can get him. And we actually use that in this next level quite a bit. So in Dungeon Deeps, there's a couple areas where the game wants us to backtrack. And quite frankly, we're pretty far into the run and our feet are tired, so we don't want to have to backtrack. So instead, we're just going to take some deaths, some very intentional and optimized deaths that allow us to warp back to save points that are a lot closer to where we need to go so that we can get all of the levers we need to get. We're also going to do some things to optimize that that death warp by clearing out old enemies that aren't very strong, so that new enemies that are going to be stronger will spawn in, because there's a couple scripted guaranteed spawns in these sections up here, and those enemies are stronger, so making sure that we have those guys is gonna help us take some of these death warps a little bit faster. Does warrant a little extra carefulness though as we run through here, because sometimes you can accidentally take an early death, which can hurt a little bit, but luckily it's really not too far that you have to run. So
yeah, in any percent, it is better to take the death warp because it does end up saving anywhere between like 4 to 6 seconds. But if it doesn't happen or you have full health, you can easily just take the walk, and it's not too impactful on the overall run.
Which is very nice. So now, after taking these death warps, you'll see Boyo entering a room soon that has had a very interesting history. So this room, we used to have an issue where it would kind of bug out a lot. Sometimes this gate that's supposed to open after we kill these 2 tall blue guys, it just wouldn't open. So a runner blue screen eventually found out that what needs to happen before the gate will open is we need to make sure enemies are spawning in the back of the room. As long as enemies are spawning in the back of the room, it'll let us open this gate. But if we kill the 2 tall blue guys before enemies start spawning, it won't let us open this gate for like an extra 40 or 50 seconds. It's a huge time loss. So blue screen luckily solved that riddle for us. And then here we also get to see the weapon upgrade in play again, as we can just absolutely shred through all these generators that we need to destroy. And this is one of the reasons why Imperial City's weapon upgrade has helped so much in this run. And so now we have a bit of a walking section. We need to walk through some corridors before we can get to the troll fight. The troll is the next big boss that we need to fight. And he's very aptly named. He has the chance to really troll us. He's only got about 1 attack that isn't good for us. The rest we have strategies built up around. But there's 1 attack that we can't do much about. And unfortunately, he really likes to do that attack. So we're both going to be crossing our fingers and hoping that he doesn't do that attack too much so that we can save ourselves a little bit of time. There's also a weapon upgrade in the back of the troll fight room. We're probably going to be picking that up as well, just so that we have the best weapon in the game, because that's the final weapon upgrade. And that'll help us both during the fight, but also in some of the later parts. Here we go. Also some fire traps around this room that can be a bit hazardous and warrant a little extra safety. I hope I survive to get the... There we go. Alright, and luckily taking deaths on a lot of these boss fights, you just respawn right inside the arena, so not a huge deal if you take a little damage and die here. And there's that move that we don't want, that big tennis arm swing that we can't really do much about. But this one, this overhead swing, we can counterattack that, so that lets us stun him briefly and saves us a little time. And there we go, that's the troll fight. One of the, historically, one of the more difficult fights that would end up wasting a lot of time, but we've gotten much, much better at that fight as of late, so it has become a much more consistent part of the run. Oh, I had actually died during that cutscene, so I need to respawn.
Oh no.
I hadn't really known. I don't know if I've seen that before. I died during the cutscene. I think something hit me as it started, so.
The double KO.
Yeah. So now we're entering the sort of underworld section, these caves that we have to go through. These levels are very objective heavy, so a lot of what we've done up until now is mostly around destroying things or just picking up keys. But we actually have some sort of unique functioning mechanics and objectives on this level and the next level, these 2 levels. It does, to me, seem like this level was likely going to be focused on the elf character. Their color palettes line up, and we know that there was meant to be a lot more lore and story told about the different characters. Boy, I don't know if you want to maybe talk about how that was going to play out.
To my knowledge, this game had 16 levels, and 4 levels were going to be centered around each character. The first 4 being for the warrior. The next 4, in my best guess, would be for the wizard. And the next 4 being the hometown for the emperor, which would be the place for the Valkyrie, and then the last bit would be for the elf. Don't quote me on that. Unfortunately, a lot of the story got lost when the management took over and John Romero and Josh Sawyer left. So we're kind of left in speculation as to like the accurate history of this game. Perhaps one day somebody will decide to pick up the pieces and fill in the gaps, as it were.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that was seemingly meant to play out. I really like the way these levels ended up looking, and I do wish we could have gotten more lore from them, because these levels are very pretty. And I like the music in them as well. So, but yeah, here we have to keep taking these teleporters, and then once we teleport, we have some levers that we need to pull. And there's 3 of these levers. There's 3 teleporters and 3 levers. And a lot of times, once we're down there by the levers and we've pulled them, we end up trying to take another death warp. And that's because walking back up takes 10, 12 seconds. So as long as you can die a little faster than that, then it's pretty worth it to take that death warp. So a lot of times what you're going to see is that we run down here, we pull these levers, and then we go ahead and let the enemies take us out. Luckily,
I'm getting to it.
there you go.
Death has beard.
Yes, death has a beard. Yeah, so taking these death warps, saving ourselves a little bit of time. Also having this weapon upgrade, any of the generators that we do need to take out, we can do so a little bit faster. I'm also about to get death here. Death has a beard. And here's actually an interesting spot. There's going to be a grouping of generators here. We're actually going to be using the Slam instead of the Continental Assault for this, mostly. And that's because there's 3 generators closely coupled together. And Continental can't hit all 3 at once, but the Slam can, and so that saves us a little time. Oof, of course I level up there. Kind of unfortunate since I did want to take that damage, but it's okay. We'll make do with what we got. We're starting to push our way towards the ending portions of this run. Only a little bit left for us. Got a little unfortunate with the enemy spawns. I don't have the dragons that I usually hope for. Hope that these trolls can start doing some good damage. There we go. So now we're going to be entering Deep Fortress. So Deep Fortress is a fun level. It's got kind of a unique mechanic where we actually get to do an objective that we haven't seen yet in the game, and this is the only time we get to see it. There's going to be these crystals, these magical crystals that we need to activate throughout this level. And by activating these crystals, we can unlock portions of the level and move forward, but the crystals are on a timer, and so once you've activated one, it won't stay active for long. So you have to be quick in activating these to make sure that you get them all. So it could be a bit of a stressful level. The first section's not too bad, but it's really that second set of crystals that's going to be really difficult for us. Because we're going to try to get it in one cycle. There's some things in the way, and so normally you have to clear the things out first, but we're going to try to be doing the clearing and the activating at the same time. So, going to activate some of these crystals. I also did a little... Oh. Oh, no. I've never had this happen. So that was fun. I ended up getting completely body blocked from one of the crystals, and they killed me.
Oh, no.
So that's going to put me a little bit further behind, but that's okay. Hopefully we can make up time by getting a good 1 cycle in the second set of crystals. So luckily that spawn point's close by. I can go ahead and hit those again. And you'll see Boyo doing that second set of crystals right now. So yeah, this level, I kind of wish we saw more mechanics like this, and obviously because the development was rushed, it's maybe just not something they could fit in. But unique objectives that kind of put us into a different mindset's nice. So I'm going to be going for that 1 cycle here, so I'm going to clear out the enemies, and then we're going to go for it. I'm going to run. Hopefully we get to this one. I have to destroy this generator really quickly and activate it. And then luckily on this third one, we don't have to destroy the generator, so we can activate it from the corner. And so I was able to get the 1 cycle there, which is really nice. And then on this third set of crystals that you're about to see, they're on top of these staircases. And for some reason, you only have to go up about half the staircase to activate them. So this saves us a little time, makes that a little easier. We used to walk all the way up, and then we realized, hey, wait a minute. We can press the button pretty early here and make this a little bit easier. So as we approach this third set of crystals, you'll start seeing that. And then what you'll see Boyle doing here is starting that final boss. So Caldera is the final boss of the run. Do you want to talk a little bit about Caldera, Boyo, and how that works?
Yeah, so Caldera is, in the lore, the baddest, the most fierce of all the advisors. As he appears from the lava, he seems quite menacing. Unfortunately, due to the rushed timeline of this game, the objective here is to aim and fire 4 ballistas that will take out Caldera. In a way, it's unfortunate for a final boss to have such simple mechanics, but as a speedrunner, it's really refreshing to have a final fight be a little bit more on the easier side. Can focus more on the enemies that are surrounding you and the projectiles that Caldera fires, as opposed to a number of different things. Going into this section right here, what I'm hoping to do is hit this switch to get the bridge, and then Mana Blast to get rid of all of the enemies. The reason is the enemies do like to follow you throughout, and one of the things that Furby discovered in this level in particular, if you can get rid of a good portion of the enemies that had been loaded in now, when we get to toward the end where we have to start pushing more stones, there will be less enemies that we have to deal with then, which saves us time.
Yeah, it's a nice little strategy, adds a little consistency to this level. Untimely deaths can be kind of tough for the end of the run here, and so having something that gives us a little bit of a break at the end once we have to push these stones can be nice. And it's kind of silly. I mean, a lot of what we're seeing here are recycled mechanics from previous levels, so levers, ballistas, pushing stones, that's what we saw throughout the run previously, and so it's very interesting to see what they seemingly were doing to try and speed things up during their development, because they didn't have time to maybe do more with this. So I'm very low on health, but actually I might just take this death here because I'm right on top of that spawn point. That'll help me a little bit. Here's where we want to try to get those enemies stuck. I'm going to try to stand back a little further, make sure they get stuck on the island. Hopefully Caldera didn't kill them with that fireball, and we can try and finish off this level all by our lonesome. Activate these switches. And from what I'm seeing, Boyo is getting real close to that end point. So once we take these teleporters, yeah, once we take the teleporter and activate those last switches, the fight is over, and that is the end time for our run.
Yeah, go ahead and call it once you get to the final cutscene.
I am just nearly there, just on those final stones. Okay. Keltair trying to push me out right at the end. I am going to take a slightly wider angle just to get a little safety from the enemies as well. And that's time for me as well.
Very nice.
Awesome. So yeah, that's Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. This is our new game any % category. We only use one controller for this. The other category we use 4, so there's a lot of really cool things going on around Gauntlet 7 Sorrows right now. The races for this are super fun, especially because of how close they've been getting lately. It makes it very very tight, very stressful, and I think that's really good for these kinds of races. Even all the way up to Caldera there, if any, like, I was a bit behind and I had lost some time in Deep Fortress, but if anything had gone wrong for Boyo there, if he didn't pull that off as cleanly as he did, things could have shifted. So it's a really fun run to see, and it's really fun to do as a race. Boyo, if you have things you'd like to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One of the things that I'm very thankful for this is that we have 2 pretty active runners. We've mentioned it before. This game really had its renaissance starting on January 14th of this year, literally 2 days after I had gotten back from AGDQ 2026. And ever since then, both Furby and Blue Screen 18 have been optimizing the run, have been questioning the original ideas, and the times have been going further and further down. Once was thought to be only a pipe dream to be under an hour in single player, new game to be specific, is now a 52-minute world record time. So having the 2 of you here to be able to inspire and create new ideas to keep the times down, I am truly thankful for. So I want to thank the both of you for being a part of it. And why not have a race at GDQ? I think that is far more enjoyable for the viewers.
Yeah, and I want to give a huge shout out to Boyo as well. Boyo has been amazing. I'm new to the Gauntlet series, and I'm new to the Gauntlet community. This is the first game that I've run from the series, and it's been incredibly fun. Boyo has been a pillar of the Gauntlet community for a long time, and he's been an absolute exemplary person and player amongst everyone. Getting to know everyone has been awesome. Getting to run the game together. We've been doing races and co-op runs. We actually did the first official co-op speed run, which was incredibly fun. That was between me, Boyo, and Blue Screen. So, been awesome. Also, massive shout out to Blue Screen, who has found tons of the strats that we use, been really innovating the way that we approach this game. So, it's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate everybody that has pulled together for it. So.
With that, I want to thank you all for watching this run. I really hope that the GDQ committee will consider us as a part of the SGDQ 2026 lineup. And until next time, remember, keep playing. And cut.
Cut.
Nice.